You're listening to the Goggler podcast with me, Uma, and joining me today is the Oscar, BAFTA, Grammy-winning, multi-hyphenate filmmaker of The Warrior, Senna, Amy, Maradona, Mindhunter, Asif Kapadia, who happened to be in Kuala Lumpur for this year's 8th edition of the Malaysian International Film Festival, MIFFest, where he served as the jury president. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, the thing I've always been curious about, because your work has been so varied from Warrior onwards, how do you pick those subjects? Because those are varied as well.
Yeah.
And do you come at them as a fan?
No, I don't come at them as a fan with the documentaries, definitely not at the beginning, right? So for me, it's always like all filmmaking, all directing for me is learning to kind of trust your gut, your kind of inner voice, your feeling on the inside. So why do you say yes to this project and no to this project? Something is in the ether, like whatever's going on in the world, whatever moment you're at in your life,
Yeah.
but also like your taste or your interest. And it's not the same, right? So I'm now able to, I'm in my 50s, I've made quite a few films, a lot of TV shows and lots of stuff, right? And I realized when I was making The Warrior in my 20s, I'm a very different person now in my 50s.
Yeah.
And so I almost now can look at it saying they're different like chapters of life. I made short films, I've made commercials, I did fiction films. And then the documentaries became a little point in life where they came one by one. I'm a sport fan. I've always loved sport. So as well as being a lover of cinema and movies, and I'm interested in politics and I'm interested in the world, I've always loved sport. So Senna was my first experience of doing a documentary, but it came out of the fact that I actually think sport is very difficult to do in fiction.
Right.
I think it's better because it's so unbelievable, some of the stories that happen, that if you wrote it down, you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So Senna was the first because it was an attempt to make something to explain the kind of characters that are amazing that are in sport. My hero being like Muhammad Ali. I don't think any actor can ever be Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is the best Muhammad Ali there's ever going to be. He's better looking, he's a better performer, he can fight, he's got better poetry and perform. You know, he's like, there's nobody that can do what he did.
Yeah.
No matter how good the actor. So I would class Senna, Amy, and Maradona in the same bracket in terms of no actor, I think, can be Diego Maradona.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be better than him and look like the way he does and be as good a footballer.
Yeah.
No actor can pretend. They can pretend. Sure, some of them can drive, but you're not Senna.
Yeah.
Even if you're good looking, you're not as charismatic as Ayrton Senna. So that was the idea, was go with the real person. But the story has to have drama, it has to have tension, it has to have conflict, it has to have all of the tragedy in the case of some of them. So everything that you want in a fiction film, but in a real life.
Right.
And then my job is, how can I make this feel like a movie?
Yeah.
So that was the idea, that the documentaries come out of my experience of making fiction films.
Right.
And applying screenwriting and storytelling that I learned doing drama to documentaries. And sport is like the ultimate in, it always builds to some sort of climax.
Yeah.
There's some sort of emotional moment going on. And with Senna, there was a very tragic ending. With Amy, there was a very tragic ending. But you have this art, an artist, and a kind of character's journey with Amy. And Maradona was too many stories. I mean,
Yeah, of
I
course.
had to decide on which part of his life to tell.
And you said you didn't approach it as a fan at first, but I'm assuming that changes.
Yeah, so then I would say that I'm like the first audience member. And now when I look at it, and the way I kind of process making films is, I love studying. I went to film school. I think it's important to get an education. So for me, every film is typically 3 to 5 years of my life. So it's like doing a PhD in a subject.
Yeah.
I'm doing a PhD in Diego Maradona. Like everything you ever need to know about Diego, I kind of know. And then my job is, how do I turn that into a story? But along the way, I'll be honest, I fell in love with Ayrton Senna. I fell in love with Amy Winehouse. Diego's quite hard to fall in love with, right? Because I met him. He's quite tricky. But the young guy, I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
And I would be honest, I will fight anyone for me to say Diego Maradona in his prime at that moment in life, considering what he did, is the greatest footballer of all time. Because football was different. You could attack them and break their legs. And no matter what happens, however good Messi and Ronaldo and all these other players are, football is easier for attacking players. You can't hurt them the way that the pitches are better, the balls are better, the referees protect you.
Yeah.
You have bigger squads. You always will be playing in the Champions League. Even if you finish fifth, they'll find some excuse to get you to play the World Club Championships. They'll change the rules to help you win the Ballon d'Or. Diego's from another era, right? And he did it with a team, Napoli, that had never won the championship. So that's why I'm like, along the way, I become a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big Amy fan now. I'm a big Senna fan. And I think the reason I picked these characters, something instinctive at the beginning, but by the end, I'm like, I will take on anyone. They may not have won the most world championships.
Right.
That's the point. I'm not interested in the people who've like got the top number of statistics. It's the character is more interesting for me. That's it.
As a filmmaker, though, that decision to tell your stories by way of archival footage feels incredibly difficult.
There are much easier ways to make films.
Right? I mean, the talking head is just
Yeah.
the easiest possible way you can do it. But I'm curious about getting emotional intimacy and momentum when you're using archival footage.
So let me try and explain that to you, because coming from a drama background, The Warrior, if you've seen it, has very little dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's built on a charismatic actor, Irfan Khan, amazing
Guy. Yeah.
One of the greatest. And I wrote a screenplay, and for me, films should be cinema, and cinema is visual storytelling, telling the story with images. Radio is radio, TV is TV, cinema is something else. And so the films that I like are the ones that kind of take you on a journey, on a story, but also use the process of cinematography, editing, music, all of these elements that make cinema so special. So having made lots of short films that were very visual, I had a short period of my life where I worked in television. My first job outside of university, I got a job in TV. And TV was very quick turnaround. Like you just have to go out, shoot something, it's on TV later on today or tomorrow. And it was like so fast that you had very little time for me to make it good. I just found my boss would just say, it's fine, it's great. The audience are stupid.
Good enough.
Yeah, the audience are stupid. Your film's too clever. Make it more stupid. And I'd be like, why are you saying that? He goes, no, they're idiots. You have to treat them like fools, And this guy had spent his life in television. I just thought, I don't feel that way. And also, I feel like it's quite good the way it is. He goes, no, dumb it down or make it longer. And I'm like, well, I like it the length it is. He goes, it's too short. We've got a black hole to fill. Just make it 2 minutes longer and it'll go out later on today. And honestly, it drove me mad because I like to take my time to make something good. And my friends who worked with me, they were like, what are you moaning about? Life is great. We've got a company car. We've got expenses. We can do whatever we want. I'm like, yeah, but it's crap. It's not good. And I'm like, I'm more interested in doing less I want it to be good. So I quit. That's the only job I've ever had in my life that was like a real job ever. I was like, I can't do it. It's not for me. Some other people can do this as good as I can and they'll be happier.
Yeah.
I'm unhappy. So I quit and I went back to art school in order to study filmmaking and to become a proper cinematic director. And that is where my style came from. That short period of working in TV for only a few months, because I couldn't take it, has affected my entire career. So all of my dramas, The Warrior, came out of my experience of saying, I don't want to do television.
Yeah.
And Senna particularly came out of not doing talking heads, because for me, I've studied screenwriting, I've studied storytelling. If I do a fiction film with Ayrton Senna, I'm telling the story from the point of view of the central character. If I interview people and they tell me about Ayrton Senna and I put them on screen, I felt like for me, it would be a failure if Ayrton Senna's story is narrated by Alan Prost.
Yeah.
Like, he's his greatest rival. Why is he telling you the story? It's got to be Senna's story. So everyone's like, well, how the hell are you going to do that? He's not around. I go, well, I'll find a way. And that's where I was quite stubborn. And I spent a lot of time studying Senna and every interview he ever did, everything. And it's only as possible because Formula One exists through sponsorship. Right. Cameras are everywhere. You're constantly interviewed before, during, after. He's a big star in Brazil. He's interviewed. He speaks in English to the English audience. He speaks in Portuguese to the Brazilians. They're not the same interviews.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, this is interesting. Alan Prost will say this thing in English, and then he'll speak to the guy in French and say, this guy, he's a cheat. In English, say, yeah, well, we're very good rivals. And I'm like, that's interesting, the tension that comes from language. We all do it.
Yeah.
You speak differently to your home crowd.
Yeah.
So all of this meant I think there's a way of making this film in a really original way where your lead character is narrating the story. And if you know the story, I want you to forget the ending. And if you don't know the story, you're going to fall in love with him and you're really in for a shock when you get to the ending, because a lot of Americans had never heard of him.
You say that. So it's really funny. Just like a week and a half ago, I walk into my bedroom and my wife just goes, "Oh my God, have you seen this movie, Senna?" And she started watching it because she had just come out of watching F1. And so she's always been a fan of the sport, but she didn't know anything about Senna. And so I'm like, yes, of course. And then I'm like, I'm interviewing Asif in like a week. And she's like, oh my God. And then I leave the room and I come back later and she's in tears and she's just like, wait, he dies? I'm like,
I know.
yes.
Yeah, you fall in love with this guy. And that's, I'm glad you didn't ruin it.
No,
you know, when the film came out, there were all these press reviews where they just said the Formula One racing driver who died. And I'm like, if a Marvel movie comes out, you don't say, and at the ending, they're going to make another one. And the guy they pretend he died and then he just comes back again.
Yeah.
Or then they'll go to his, past life or something. So yeah, I had to kind of say to people, I had to call them up saying, look, it's a movie. People don't know the ending.
Don't know.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah.
Let them kind of watch it. And so that was I'm glad you.
And I think that's what's really fascinating about your films. I mean, with Senna, with Amy, especially, obviously I know the outcome. I know how they end up. But I think the journey catches me off guard. And it's primarily because of this archival footage. Because
But there's another thing. Shall I tell you what it is?
What is it?
Do you know the Safdie brothers?
Of
Do you know
course,
this?
yes.
Right? So I met them. They're fans of my films. And I met them at Telluride. So I was like, why do you like the films? They said, because you do something. You tell the story in the present.
Precisely.
So it's not just the archive.
Yes.
The archive is used to make you be in the room with Amy Winehouse.
Yes.
You're in the room with Ayrton Senna, and then you follow him. So the idea is, what documentaries historically have done is they've been made from the perspective of now, and you look back at Ayrton Senna, and you have an interview of someone now. For example, Alain Prost. He'll look older, and he will then say, Senna, he was great. Cut to a young Alain Prost and a car going, meow, right, which is traditional documentary filmmaking at the time.
Yeah.
And so my thing was, I don't want to see them now. If you might hear them, I interview people. So the films have all of my interviews, all of my research, but the voice doesn't change quite the same way as you age. So the idea is you make it in the present. And that's why a lot of movie directors like the docs, because they're like tense movies.
Yeah.
Like you create tension because
Yes.
like, what happens next? No. And then what? And then what? And that is storytelling. That's filmmaking. That's proper directing.
Yeah.
And that was what I felt we could do. You don't always know if the footage exists. That's the gamble. That's why they take so long. That's why they cost money. But the idea is, well, we're going to take as long as it takes. Remember, it's the opposite of what I was doing in television. Yeah. I'll take as long as it takes to find the footage to tell this story. And if I can't find the footage to tell this particular part of a character's story, this actually kind of fulfills the narrative beat. I'll show you something else. So a lot of the footage in Senna is not necessarily the footage that was in all the books written about him.
Right.
And they would always say, this was really important. And what essentially is writers copy each other's books and they just rewrite it and regurgitate it. What my thing is, well, I've got to show it. If we can't show it, it's not in a movie. And that was the rule that I would make to my editors and all of my team. Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Everything has to be shown. So with Amy, similar principle. I had no idea if any material existed, but I started interviewing people, doing the audio, and everyone said, you've got to tell the story of the real Amy, not the way she was portrayed by the tabloids. I'm like, unless you tell me, I don't know what the real Amy is because I never met her. So it's all about trust.
Yeah.
Build up trust, and then you find a way to visually tell the story in the present. So you think Amy's alive again, and you spend time with her, and you get emotionally hit when she dies.
Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about the immediacy or the speed of television, because it's a pet peeve of mine at the moment, and I wanted your thoughts on this, because we seem to be inundated with, and I use this word in inverted commas, documentaries at the moment, right? I think there was a recent case in the UK about this woman who killed her husband and family. And she poisoned them with mushrooms.
Australia.
It was in Australia, yes. And within minutes, there were 2 documentaries out.
True crime is the death of everything right now.
Correct. But what I find is the problem with that is you're essentially archiving and regurgitating press materials. There isn't enough time for insight.
And context, there's like nothing else. Yeah, I mean, that is, in a way, I've kind of created a monster. Because those docs have, people just copy that style.
They have.
But they think, oh, it's easy. We just cut together everything. And then you go, so why is it still crap? Because it's got no one's thought about it. Like, there's no direction,
And there's no opinion.
Yeah,
like whether an active opinion or an implicit opinion doesn't exist. It's almost a case of, hey, in case you missed it, this is everything you need to know.
No, I agree. It's kind of, people think it's easy. I mean, it is easy. You can edit anything together, but it's not necessarily any good. But you're right, that I'm aware of the fact that I noticed the copying of the style on everything now because it's the nature of camera phones, it's the nature of technology getting smaller, it's the nature of more and more channels churning out more and more material. But I'm aware.
With those three aside, the Fedra one felt a bit different.
It is different, yeah.
Could you talk to me about how it was different for you?
Because it came about in a different way. It wasn't something where I started the project in a way. Somebody contacted me saying, look, he's retired already and this material exists. Would you be interested in looking at it?
Because he wanted it for his own private archives,
I mean, yeah, because his wife has never spoken to anyone. He's never let anyone into his home. He's not, not really opened up before. No one's ever been allowed in a locker room before. So I honestly, I started it thinking I'm not really a tennis guy. I don't really know Federer. I'm not really a Federer guy. I've seen a bit of tennis, and then I watched some of this material, and honestly, I was basically saying, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have time, not interested. But I started watching it, and I was like just at home doing chores, and I was kind of doing the washing, and I was doing this, and I was doing that. And I just found myself getting kind of like really emotionally affected by the ending. And then I thought, actually, I'm surprised that it's emotionally affected me. Maybe there's something here. And then I'm now interested in making films which are not, I don't need to spend 5 years on a film. And that was made very quickly. So I now do some films fast and I do other films over a long period of time. Some are more personal, some are less personal. This one, I'm interested in kind of people and different ages of people. And I think what got me on Federer, there's one line one of his coaches says,
right,
which is like, he says, athletes die twice. So I thought that's kind of interesting. That's what it's about. It's about a first death, like your career dies.
Yeah.
And then what? And the idea that he's 40.
Yeah.
And what now? And so even if you're super successful, really wealthy, won everything, you're brilliant. And now what?
You've got the rest of your life.
Yeah, but you're like, you lose the thing that you spent all your life doing. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So that film is really about that. And these great rivals all also getting very emotional because they know it's them next. And by the time we're talking, pretty much Djokovic is still trying. The rest of them are gone, right? Yeah. They've all retired. And so it was like the beginning of the end of that entire era. So I thought, okay, and rather than it being his life story, he was pretty clear, I don't want to do my life story. So I was like, okay, let's just go with this idea. We're framing it over 12 days. It's 12 days in the career of a great athlete where we dip a little bit into his story and his past, but it's not about everything because he wasn't ready to go there. I was like, okay, fine. So it was a very contained kind of project. And so, yeah, I kind of, and it went out and it's like a big hit everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because he's huge, right?
He's big, yeah.
And it's very emotional. But I like that idea of it being about a simple thing in this case, which is what do you do when you're an athlete and you retire? Or some other people get an injury and you're 21 years old and your career could be over, or you're 30 years old and 40 is old for an athlete, but a lot of directors are starting at 40.
Yeah.
Do you know, if you look it up, right, Ridley Scott was doing press for Gladiator 2.
Yep.
And like in all of his Gladiator interviews, he mentions the Federer film.
Does he really?
Yeah, he's a big tennis guy.
Right.
And so he's like, I watched this film about Federer. Yeah, it's great. You got to watch it. He goes, because he was relating to it as that's when he made his first film. His first film he makes at 40. He said, I was a successful commercials director.
Yes.
I hadn't even made a feature film. And the idea that your career's over at 40. So he's now 80 and he's still making movies.
Yeah.
So I thought he sort of saw why I was interested in it. Is that if you're a director, 40 is considered young. If you're an athlete, that's a really long career. So that's kind of what it's about.
Have you, in your course of making these things, encountered any piece of footage that was particularly difficult or emotional to work with?
Oh yeah, lots. I mean, I've seen lots of really awful stuff of Amy Winehouse. I've seen some really heavy. When you've got addiction, people and their cameras around. So I've seen some awful stuff of Amy, awful stuff of Diego, people doing bad things. And then I did a film last year called 2073.
I haven't seen it yet because it didn't open here, and it's not available on digital here yet either.
You need to see that one. That's quite heavy.
I do, yeah, I know.
It's quite
also,
heavy
because
film.
it feels like it's kind of prescient with everything else that's going on in the world right now.
I started it 5 years ago. It's literally, when I started it, everyone's like, what's your problem? Everything's great. I'm like, I don't think so. I've got a bad feeling about where the world is going.
Right.
And it's basically like that. And you should see it. I'll get you a link if you.
Oh my God, thank you. That would be
great.
Because
it's a mixture of, it's what you just said about documentaries sort of being everywhere in the kind of archivey style.
Yes.
I'm aware of it, so I don't want to do that. I'm like, let's do something else. And so what I've done is I've mixed archive and fiction together properly in a movie for the first time. So it's set in a future. So it's a documentary set in a future in 2073.
Yes, with the great Samantha Morton.
Yeah. And some amazing journalists. And so it's a really interesting mixture where kind of all the women are the heroes and there's a lot of bad guys in the world. So that one, making that film, I saw some awful stuff, like of what's in the world. Some of it's in the film, but there's a lot more that I saw that's not in the film. Because it uses actually social media and it uses information that you get online. It's quite political, it's quite controversial, quite interesting who it's pissed off, which is kind of the point.
Great.
In a way. So
you're doing something right.
Yeah. When I made it, it talks about people like Trump, it talks about a lot of kind of authoritarian leaders.
Yeah.
So a lot of those countries and people from those countries or people working in those countries or political agents were very quick to attack the film before it even came out. Yeah. And when we were making it, the honest truth is, I had American money, and all the Americans were like, "Get rid of Trump. He's old news.
He's done, right?
He's done. We're sick of him. Why is he in the film?" I'm like, "Yeah, but he happened. He was a part of recent history. They're like, oh, come on, so many shit. Oh God, we're sick of him. Take him out." And I didn't take him out. And by the time the film comes out, he's out. He's in again.
He's in again.
And now they're all going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's all in the film. How did you know? How could you?" I'm like, I'm paying attention. I'm like looking.
Also, you know what it is? We're Asian. We've lived
first
through
in
this
line.
Before. Exactly.
I'm like I'm first in line. You don't even know until it affects you. It's like we get done first. I get stopped at the airport. I get, I get security checked. I get on a watch list. I get brown, Muslim, you name it, working in the US, living in Europe.
Yeah.
Of course we notice.
And we've lived through minor despots ourselves. That we know exactly how they operate.
There's a lot going on where my family's from India. I'm like, I'm seeing this been going on a long time. You don't even notice. You just keep going, world's greatest democracy. Not if you're Muslim. Have you been there?
Yeah.
All of this stuff. I work, and it was a culmination of a lot of my work. So I spent a lot of time in Brazil during Senna and after Senna. And the crew on Senna that I was working with afterwards were all arguing once in Portuguese. And it was quite like, I was like, what's going on? And my composer, Antonio Pinto, is from Brazil, right? And he did City of God, Central Station. He's amazing. He did Brazilian Olympics, and he's done all of my films since Senna. So he's a certain age, and his father was locked up by a military dictatorship for being a cartoonist. He was a political cartoonist, and he was put in prison for drawing pictures.
Right.
So he's like lived with military dictatorship. The young people all wanted a tough guy to come along to just wipe away all the gangsters on the street. Just shoot them, don't bother arresting them. They're all evil, just kill them. They wanted a strong man. And they were arguing. And he said, well, you don't understand what that means. We grew up with dictatorship up until the 80s, right? And they're like, no, we need a tough guy because they were born afterwards and they had democracy or whatever. So Bolsonaro comes in.
Yeah.
because they all voted for him. And these were like educated, middle-class people, and that's what they all voted for him. And so I remember seeing that happening in Brazil. I was in the US during the first Trump election. I was doing Mindhunter. I was directing Mindhunter while I was there in Pittsburgh, in a swing state. I told every American person, and I'm like, you don't understand, Trump's going to win. They're like, don't, he's stupid, no way. I'm like, we just had Brexit. It's the same language, it's the same people, it's the same way, the slogans are exactly the same, and it's all built on racism. So that was 10 years ago, Brexit happened. So from that moment, I suddenly realized, oh, I'm paying a lot more attention to politics and the kind of authoritarians, the far right, fascism, just see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So 2073 was a comment on that. It's like, finally, I'm going to make something about this. And honestly, like, it premiered in Venice, but it's really been fascinating. Like, some of the places, like the worst reviews and the most attacks, and no American festivals would show it.
Really?
It's been mad. Yeah.
Wow.
No sales agent in France would like talk to me or whatever, because it was like, they don't want to piss off tech companies. They don't want to piss off like people, certain leaders. If you speak up about what's going on to Palestinians, they're like, we won't ever show your film.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. And I've been talking for a long time. So all of that is kind of built into my experience releasing 2073.
Wow.
Which is why it's been much more difficult to find.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a way,
but then again,
that's the point.
Yes, exactly. I was just
It's
going to say
basically,
that.
it's an underground movie. People want to find it. They'll find it. They watch it. And they're like, this is exactly what we've been experiencing and talking about.
So I'm assuming the streamers aren't touching it either.
Funnily enough, you can get it on Amazon, even though we talk about Jeff Bezos, because they'll show anything.
Oh, yeah.
So you can, I mean, but no, Netflix are like, none of those guys were. It may end up on there. Here's a funny thing, right? So it came out end of last year in the US.
December, right? Yeah.
And like, there was not really much attention. I didn't do any press. It wasn't really anything. I did a couple of small festivals and stuff. And then like madly, like February, March this year, it was on HBO Max.
Oh, it was? Okay.
So it's on HBO Max. It might be available here. It was the number 1 movie on HBO Max. Like, not the number 1 doc. Like, number 2 was like a Marvel movie. Number 3 was like $200 million movies. And this little doc was the number 1 movie for quite a while on HBO Max. Somehow or another, and they're all like, this is weird. I thought it was a movie starring Samantha Morton, but it's a bit realistic. We don't like it. We hate this. This is awful. So there was like, people are giving it 1 star and 10 stars and very little in the middle. It's like,
very cool.
Which is the US.
Yeah.
But they saw it.
Oh, that's
so
good.
It became like a big hit there.
We don't get all of this stuff on HBO Max.
I don't know if it's reached this
so
region
it's regional.
yet, but if you haven't got it,
but we'll have a
find
look.
it, I'll get it to you.
Before I let you go, I've got to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
Yet again, something I think which was ahead of its time and probably misread at the time, but the Sarah Michelle Gellar horror movie.
The Return,
which I really enjoyed at the time.
Yeah.
And I think if it was made in 2025,
Yeah.
with the slate of horror we're seeing now,
Right.
it feels like the style is similar to what we're getting today.
I don't know. Do you know what? It's not a genre that I know too well. But I remember thinking that was a fascinating kind of experience of, I think there's some really good filmmaking in there.
I think
it's
so
a good
too.
film, right?
Yeah.
But it was just marketed as like some gruesome horror, and it's not.
I think that was the mistake.
And it was like, it's not the film.
Because even the
but
trailer
they were like
is,
trying to lie to the audience to make them go and see a film because they didn't believe in the film. So you lie to an audience and they're going to be like pissed off saying, well, that's not the film. But so it was a really not a great studio experience.
Right.
But somewhere in there, the crew were great. We shot it in Texas, in Austin.
Yeah.
Had a really great time with most of the people, but it was not a fun experience of a lot of the studio execs who basically said, we're going to make this, we love your work, do it. And then during the process, it becomes like the opposite of everything,
we love
everything
your work,
I've ever done.
Don't do what you
but
do.
We hate you because this is what you do. You go, why do you, I'm like minding my own business in London. You come all the way there saying, we want you, we come and do this film, we love you. And then the minute like I'm doing it, like, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? Why are you doing that? Don't do this.
No, I think
it was like hell.
I think it was incredibly visually inventive, and it was unlike other horror movies at the time.
Yeah.
But it
was playing with like karma and being reborn, and it was like reincarnation. So it was quite an Asian kind of concept, right? Which we're doing that now in Texas, and so it was sort of like different to other films.
But you know what? As if it hasn't changed. So even the Jordan Peele movie Nope.
Yeah.
there was actually a different trailer
Yeah.
cut for Malaysia
Right.
to make it feel like a horror film.
Right.
Because they thought audiences wanted horror films. And I remember my colleague and I were telling the studio, guys, if Malaysians go to it, the
They're
word
gonna
of mouth
expect
is
really
going to be
gruesome
terrible,
stuff, yeah.
because they're going to say this isn't scary.
Because they like their hardcore horror.
They like their hardcore horror.
Yeah, and that was it. It was exactly this experience of like people. I mean, there were. I'll talk about it, man. There were bits where they were like, "We're just going to shoot this thing to cut it into the trailer." I'm like, "But it's not literally. That's not a scene in a movie." They're like, "Just do it." And there was a point when I'm like, "I'm not doing it." I walked off. Someone else directed this bit just so they could cut it into the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm not doing that. It's got nothing to do with a movie." So there were like jump scares that were just cut in to the movie.
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm like, I'm not even going to be in the room when you do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even told anyone that because no one's asked. But it was like, ended up still doing really well in America.
Oh,
and,
we did.
I was like in Spain recently.
But also,
no,
at the
I was
time,
in Italy.
Sarah
It's
Michelle
like
Gellar was huge.
well, see, what it is, yeah, that's funny, right? She was, but she was deeply unhappy. Now, if you think about it, how many movies has she done since? She's just come back.
She's come back, yeah.
So it's very interesting, right? I never thought about this, but she was a child star. And a lot of the films that I've made, docs, are about child stars. When you're Maradona and you're a kid, and by the age of 15, you're earning more money than your parents, and you earn more money than anyone in your family's ever earned, who's going to say no?
Yeah.
Same with Amy. She becomes successful. Senna's family are different. They were wealthy and they had money and he was educated and everything. But still, it's about young, brilliant young people. And so I think with Sarah, that was a kind of experience pre-Me Too. It's pre all of that. It's like women could be treated awfully in the business.
Yeah.
And then you meet them and they're kind of troubled. Like, you're like, something's up. I don't know what happened, right? But something's up. So she was not a happy person, which makes it quite hard to make a film when someone's really deeply unhappy with other people and then they take it out on the production.
Yeah.
So I think I'm kind of glad for her that I feel like she got out of the business.
Yeah, she did for a while.
Right? She's had kids, she had a family. I met her at some event and I'm hoping she's in a happier place. But you know, you see that. And it's one of the reasons, to answer one of your earlier questions about why did I start making docs? I have to be honest. I had a few experiences in Hollywood that I was like, it's not for me. I don't need to be like that. I'm not interested in selling my soul.
Yeah.
You know, The Warrior was like a big hit in the UK. It won a BAFTA for Best British Film.
Yeah.
It was the first British film, not in English, with no English actors, to win that award. No one's going to win it since. Like Irfan Khan was not known, right? And to be honest, he wasn't even like highly regarded in India.
In India at the time, yeah.
Right? That film sort of makes his career. So Harvey Weinstein buys that film for the whole world and says, it's like one of the best films I've seen. I'm going to make sure, I do this and do that. I don't have a say in who buys a film. He buys the film. I fly to New York to meet Harvey Weinstein. It's my first film. I'm still in my 20s, right? I'm young. And we have this meeting where he's like, right, here's a pile of scripts. Pick 3 scripts because your next movie has to be with me. So I'm like, okay, but I've read them all. I don't really like any of the screenplays. Because it doesn't matter. You've got to do one, and the one after that, and the one after that. And if you don't do your next 3 films with me, I will never release your film.
Shit.
So I was like, I don't sign contracts. Like I said, I had that one job in television, hated it, I quit. I'm not signing a contract, not interested. We'll do a film together, and if we like each other and we go along, we'll do another one. Because it doesn't work like that. Unless you sign a 3-picture deal, I'll kill your film. No one will ever know you existed. So I'm like, it's not going to make me sign a contract. There's like a room full of people. So that film gets killed by Harvey Weinstein.
Damn.
Doesn't come out anywhere in the world. He bought it for the whole world. That's what he used to do. I met this guy. I'm like, you're a bully. I don't work for bullies. We're never going to work together. We never have. Killed the film. So the only place it came out was the UK. It was on the long list for the Oscars.
Yes, that's right.
And then miraculously, after I have that disagreement, somewhere down the line, we get disqualified. And so that is Hollywood, right? So there's that experience. Then I have the return experience. And then you just have a series of these. And you're like, I know people who do it. And they're like, okay, I'll sell my soul because I'm desperate. I'm like, I couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Not for me.
It's that
and
whole one for you, one for me thing, right? Which doesn't really...
Which I don't... No, Scorsese said that as well. I don't mind doing movies like that. I do a bit of that. One for you, one for me. I don't mind. But it's different when you're asked to sell your soul. And I'm like, nah. I'm not doing that. So The Return was a really put so much work into it, and I thought there was a good film there, and then they just marketed it as something else, and then they were like, oh well, it didn't work, and you're like, well, you kind of killed it, but it's never their fault.
Yeah.
That was one of the interesting things about then going away, and I did a film with Michelle Yeoh, actually. She was amazing. A film called Far North.
Oh, Far North,
in the Arctic, quite dark. And I did that 2005, maybe it came out in Venice, maybe around then. Yeah, so that was really amazing. She's great. So we did a film, like a previous version of Michelle, right?
Yeah.
Now she's become this megastar with an Oscar, but she was always a megastar. Really lovely.
No, she was always fantastic. She was
Really
just never
lovely.
recognized for what she was capable of at the time.
Yeah.
We're all out of time, but very quickly, what was the Fincher experience like?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's amazing. Really brilliant. He's like such a perfectionist, so technically incredible, good guy, very so smart. So he had seen Senna and liked it, and liked Amy. So that's how I ended up, like, someone gets in touch and you're going, yeah, right, David Fincher, and you don't kind of believe it. And then it's just luck. You've got to be in the right place. So having just said what I said about working in Hollywood, I was in the US doing award season with Amy. So I happened to be in the right place at the right time. I happened to get a call saying David Fincher wants to meet. I happened to be in LA. You have breakfast, and he comes to my hotel, and we have breakfast and we have a chat, and he's like, I really like to do this thing. And he sends me these scripts, and I was a bit worried because I'm like, oh, I've had bad experiences, like horror. I'm like, this is like really dark. But then I read the script, and it's just like, it's all talking. And it's all really, really brilliantly scripted, but based on real stuff. So I was like, you know what's interesting is I did this film, Amy, which is me studying and trying to investigate a death of a young woman, like a crime, something. Young 27-year-old woman dies in front of everyone's eyes. Why did no one do anything? Why did no one get in trouble? How is this possible? So I said the way I investigated it was I met everyone involved, and I did audio interviews. No cameras, just audio. And I pieced together this crime scene. And then I found a way to visualize it, to explain something, to say something about the industry. This is show business. This is the entertainment business. This is the music business. This is family. This is relationships. This is friends. All these things are involved in the person dying. So he's like, yeah, I like that. Because the whole point of Mindhunter is people have died.
Yes.
And they investigate the people who did it by doing audio interviews to try to stop it happening in the future. So I said, and we were like, got it. It's like, that's literally what I've just done with Amy. So I get the job. And then we're in Pittsburgh, and we're in pre-production. And I'm sitting down and having pizza with David Fincher. I'm like, David, I've got the job now. I know I'm about to start shooting. Why the hell am I here? Doesn't make sense. Why me? Like, you could have asked anyone. Why? He goes, well, it's a good story. So one day my best friend comes over, says, you've got to watch this movie. You've got to watch this movie. It's amazing. And like the movie's like Senna, and his best friend's Brad Pitt. So Brad Pitt comes to his house and says, you've got to watch this. Like, what is it? He goes, just watch it. So they sit there and they watch Senna to him. You're like, this is amazing. Like, they couldn't figure out how it was made. They were like, so did he shoot that? Like, because no one really gets it. Even if you're really experienced, I still get really experienced people calling me saying, so how long did you follow him around for? I'm like, I never met him. You know, they're like, they can't get their head around, how is this made? So that was like, Brad Pitt loves it. And then a couple of years later, or however many years later, Fincher's other friend is Steven Soderbergh, who really loved Amy. And he's like, you've got to see this movie. This film's great. You've got to see Amy. And one of the producers on Mindhunter was Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
And she really loved Amy. And she was on award season with Mad Max that year. So I'd kind of met her. So this mad thing of Fincher being friends with Brad Pitt and Steven Soderbergh and Charlize Theron had all seen some of my work and liked it. And so that he's like, that's why I know your work. And I was like, okay, let's get him. And they wanted it to have a certain style. So I was like, okay. So then my job was, he did season 1, he did episode 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah.
I did 3 and 4. So my job was to be the eps after David Fincher's. So then I went over there and just watched him shoot. And in a way, that's one of the things I quite like about filmmaking is, can I do what other people do? I'm never going to be David Fincher, but can I try and do my style of seeing what he does? So that was the idea, was to don't mess it up.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to start watching this series. You're still working out what series is on 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 we sort of do, and you're kind of into the meat of it. And then he also directed the final ep. So I thought it was a really great experience. It's a really good
great
series.
show.
Yeah. It's a shame. I mean, it costs a lot of money, and it preempted, obviously, it came before COVID and stuff. So during COVID, suddenly every show that's half decent, everyone in the world started watching.
Yes. We had nothing else to do.
Mindhunter was before that.
Yeah.
It wasn't House of Cards, which was a big hit that he also created. Didn't get the credit for, but he created it. So this one he created and produced and is quite obsessive, but it just at the time wasn't seen by enough people.
You're right.
And so they sort of dropped it. Now everyone loves it.
Yes.
Now
correct.
everyone's seen it everywhere. But he's like, I don't know, he might go back to it. We'll see. I hope so.
I hope so too, yeah. I've been speaking to Asif Kapadia. If you haven't already seen his work, what the hell are you waiting for? It's absolutely brilliant. Go watch it, and thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.